This is the place where it is happening today, Lori.
Yes. What's happening? The best show on television?
You know it. Washington, D.C. doesn't know what they're doing with our money. But we've got two guests on our program who know everything there is to know about money.
Very excited about both of them.
Gurbaksh Chahal, an amazing young man. He's 26 years old. When he was 18, he sold his first company for $40 million.
Woo!
Last year, he sold his second company for $300 million.
And not to mention, we just showed a picture of him. He's actually pretty easy on the eyes, ladies. He's also a model as well as a television entrepreneur. I mean, everything. So we're going to talk to him about The Dream, which is his new book and memoir.
Some people actually confuse Omega for him. Omega, how are you doing today?
Well, I hope they do confuse for him when I get a loan, you know what I'm saying? Jeez.
Well, after hearing him, you will not need a loan.
Hey, I need to work for him. I need to keep him after the show. I got to give him my resume.
Well, you know what? You're more like me, Omega, in that we're still trying to get to the American dream. We're working on it step by step.
Of course, before you can go down and spend a lot on some of those very expensive things, you need to make a little money, which is exactly what our first guest did. As we just mentioned, he sold his first company at the age of 18 for just a cool $40 million. And then, just last year, another company for $300 million.
But Gurbaksh Chahal didn't stop there. Yeah, as we said, he's continuing to grow and be this amazing entrepreneur. This picture, by the way,
looks like he's holding something back. Looks like he's got a secret to tell us, doesn't he?
What is this? This picture is what? Is it part of your mystique? Part of your...
I think it's all in the camera. It just caught it.
It's all in the camera. You
Please
have a
welcome
new memoir.
Gurbaksh Chahal. Gurbaksh, thank you for being here.
A new memoir called The Dream. This book called The Dream just came out. And you're kind of young to have a memoir at 26, but you felt like, why now? Because you've accomplished so much?
I think the way I looked at my entire life is the last 10 years has just been an incredible journey for me. At 16, I dropped out of high school, took my first risk in being an entrepreneur. 2 years later, sold it for $40 million, got introduced to the corporate environment, and then several years later started my second one.
So that was 10 years ago that you started your first company, and you did it without your parents knowing about it. You really did it in your bedroom.
Yeah, and partly is because you know, my family was going through internal struggle as well, and the last thing I wanted to do was be a petty annoyance to go ahead and cause any trouble. And
so you just thought, I'd do this little project?
Let me do it on the side, and then, you know, when I'm ready for it, I'll go ahead and go and talk to my parents and tell them what I've been up to and get their permission to kind of do it full time.
Tell us about that talk.
It was shocking, to be the very least. Came home one night and told my dad, here's my bank statement, here's something that I've been doing on the side, and I want to do it full time. And my father just flipped out. And my mother, you know,
because that bank statement had how much as the balance?
A little over $100,000.
And you were 16 years old?
I was 16.
And he thought you were going to jail?
Yeah, convinced.
my son is going to jail.
Convinced. And my mother was convinced as well. And after they yelled, and you know, I did let them talk and do their stuff, I said, okay, let me talk and let me tell you exactly what I've been doing. And once they heard everything, they basically took a deep breath and said, wow, you know, my son's onto something, and you know, he's not going to jail, so maybe he's going to go some other places.
And so when you sold that company for $40 million, you were part of Click Agents was the company, correct?
Yeah.
And tell me what your parents' response was at that point.
I think everybody was in shock, including them and myself, and I didn't really, I guess it didn't mentally hit me because I went to work the next day for Value Click, the company that bought me, for a year and a half, and I worked just as hard as I did creating Click Agents, so it's not like the money hit me until I left.
And they were like, hey, by the way, you're a multimillionaire. You really don't have to be here.
Well, I guess it's in our DNA in terms of just never doing anything for the money, so it's not like it was solely for the money.
And Click Agents, was it it was your brainchild? Explain to people what Click Agents is.
This is Click Agents. I started in December '98. This is when the internet was only 3 years old. It was the idea of charging an advertiser only when a consumer clicked on their ad. So whether you're on MySpace, et cetera, you see an ad you're interested in, and advertisers charge for it, and MySpace benefits from that.
Okay, now most people see $40 million coming their way, and they say, I'm on the beach. This is it. I'm retired now. What drove you to start yet another company and keep going?
Well, every time you sell a company, you have a non-compete, and I have a non-compete now with Yahoo, and I had a non-compete back then for 3 years with Value.
So for 3 years, you couldn't go and create another company that competed with the one that just sold. Sold.
That's right.
That makes sense.
So when my 3 year was up, a month later, I started Blue Lithium. And I guess for me, one fundamental thing is I never did anything solely for the money. Because the minute you start that, you start thinking about how you're going to spend it. You think about all the things that really don't matter, and every decision is really made on greed, short-term goals, and not really how am I going to go ahead and actually create something that's going to be there for the long term.
So your story is very inspiring, and I know there's people out there that have great ideas, but they just haven't figured out how to execute them. Did you learn some things along the way and that you could share with people?
I learned a lot, and all of the things I learned was really through making a lot of mistakes. So, but in terms of from a higher level perspective, I guess the first thing is whether you're 12, whether you're 18, whatever age you are, I think the first thing you have to realize is what do you really want to do? I mean, figure out what you really are passionate about or love what you're doing right now. Because once you do that, we tend to start doing the things we love the most. And I was fortunate that at 16 I found out, I'm a passionate entrepreneur and I'm going to continue to do that for the rest of my life, and that was my journey. Because the minute you establish that, you can start working toward it. And I guess the second follow-on on that is you got to surround yourself around people that want to see you successful, as well as either be successful with you or just individually see you successful, because the world's not as nice as it wants to see.
So at one point did you think, okay, I know what I'm doing, I can do it all, or did you tap into people who have business experience that have been around much longer than you have?
I think when I was a 16-year-old starting off, nobody really wanted to talk to me. And I thought that the second time around when I started Blue Lithium, I'd have some credibility, and there was some, but it wasn't a whole lot. So a lot of this was self-taught, and a lot of it was going with the idea that failure is not an option. Whether people help me or not, I'm going to individually fix my DNA to want to succeed.
And you come from very humble beginnings. Your dad came over here and had to accept a minimum wage job, a little over $3 an hour, something that you really didn't have to experience firsthand until recently when Fox called you and said, we want you to be part of this television show we're doing.
That's right.
The Secret Millionaire.
Tell us about that.
So timing of it was pretty amazing, because here I just sold my company for $300 million last year, and I get casted for a show that Fox is starting called Secret Millionaire, and it's actually a show that's in the UK. It's one of the best reality shows overseas, and the whole premise of it is you go undercover in a neighborhood that's impoverished, and the whole idea is you kind of lie to everybody by saying that you're a documentary on the neighborhood, that's why there's cameras around you. But the idea of it is that nobody knows you're a millionaire. You're dressed down, and you're volunteering or spending time however way you wish, interacting with different personalities, and at the end of the day, you reveal yourself, and when you reveal yourself, you actually give away your own money to either individuals or the charity that most touched you.
And tell us about the people that you met while you were involved in this show.
It was an incredible experience. I mean, you have to watch the show next month, so I won't tell you all the details. But
you don't have to give everything away.
I spent a lot of time at a homeless shelter, stood in line, talked with the shelter, and actually ate lunch with them. So heard their stories firsthand. Worked in the kitchen as well, and then I was very moved to actually be invited and be allowed into a women's battered shelter. So a very emotional type place where they would actually welcome a man to actually be in that environment, and that was probably a very emotional part of the episode, which you'll see, where touched me in many ways, because I am very close to my family, my mother, my sisters, and that was a very humbling experience, because you kind of see stuff like that, people going through situations, and you kind of just realize, wow, we are very fortunate.
What was their reaction when they found out that you were unbelievably wealthy compared to the people that you were working with?
I think because I was the first episode shot, nobody knew what it was about. So it's almost like, what am I on, candid camera? Like nobody really knew, like Secret Millionaire, what is that? Yeah. And so a lot of people were just first digesting what's going on here. And secondly, when people realize what's going on here and really you know, it was kind of like, for me, I think it's the impact was more beyond money, because here are people that are kind of like the real heroes of the community, or people that are just, you know, asking for a second chance at life, and you know, they've been hurt by, you know, different situations and different people, and this was giving them an opportunity, giving them, renewing their faith in kind of humanity and people and so forth. And that was, I think, the most touching experience, is seeing people evolve and seeing that side of them after the reveal. Well,
the book is called The Dream: How I Learned the Risks and Rewards of Entrepreneurship and Made Millions. And of course, you'll hear much more about G. That's what, can I call you G?
Sure.
Okay, about G. Chahal from here on out. We're back with more 10 right after this.